So hello everyone. Today I will discuss some topics of polity. Means not some topics, but I will means try to teach, try to just speak about the historical underpinning part of polity because I had currently revised it. So I think I am suitable for explaining these topics. So let's start with historical underpinning part of polity. So I am currently studying means taking classes of Dr. Siddharth Arora sir from an academy app. So I had watched these lectures in previous month only, but in between I had started environment and ecology part. So after now I am continuing this. So I had revised this yesterday. So now I think that why not I should make video about this. So let's see. So coming to historical underpinning, now it all starts with the arrival of East India Company in India. That at that time I think uh, Jahangir was the Mughal emperor who was currently ruling in India. So about now talking about the East India Company. This East India Company was not just a company. It was the all the means all the shares of this company was of elite persons, of political elite persons of England. And also the Queen Elizabeth of England had given the charter to this East India Company. Here charter refers that to trade in. Here charter means the license to trade in India. So only the East India Company was the company who was given the charter, that is the license to trade in India was given by Queen Elizabeth. So East India Company got the monopoly to trade in India. So now East India Company came to India and met Jahangir, because Jahangir was ruling Mughal emperor at that time. So the first company, the East India Company set up was in Gujarat, and the East India Company was getting spices, and also it is earning very much money. And also the government has no problem with it, because this East India Company was paying huge taxes to them. So both were in benefit condition, like East India Company was getting more spices and increasing their business, and government is getting more and more taxes, so no problem to them. But then some coincidences occurred. uh, so what happened was that Nadir Shah attacks Delhi in 1739 and destroyed Mughals in the sense that he weakens the Mughal. This attack was called Battle of Karnal. So East India Company got the chance and utilized his divide and rule principle. And then Battle of Plassey occurred. And so after this East India Company was making much money, but East India Company has increased its business, but the legitimacy was not in hand of East India Company. Here legitimacy refers that legitimacy means, I will say that it's the legal or authoritical power, like as written here. If any unauthorized person is asking for money, then it is illegitimate. But if any authorized person is asking for money in the sake of anything, say saving tax, etc., then it is legitimate. So East India Company was earning much and much money, but it doesn't have that much. But they don't have that legitimate power. This power is still with the Mughal. So no, the Battle of Buxar occurred. Since the Battle of Buxar occurred, this is the most important phase, as this. After this, the East India Company got the trade. East India Company got the legitimacy of uh, Bihar, Madras, and let's see what collect revenue from Bihar, Bengal, and Odisha. These three states were giving much more taxes, and this revenue collection had gone to East India Company through Diwani right. Now Shah Alam was just reduced to pensioner, means Shah Alam was the Mughal emperor at that time. He was just reduced to pensioner. So East India Company got the power to make political slots in India. So here the East India Company got more authority than Mughals. Now, one thing that was worrying point for this East India Company was that all the employees of East India Company was very corrupt, and despite the fact that East India Company was making more and more profit, due to the corruption in the employee itself, there was this East India Company got in very loss, and this loss is of almost 1.1 million pound. So now East India Company moved to Queen Elizabeth, that is British government, and asked for bailout. Here bailout means refers to that you can give me money and save the company. So government of England agreed to bail out, but given the condition that quid pro quo. Quid pro quo means I will give you the money and you give me the authority to regulate in East India Company. So first, regulate the affairs of the company. So first law was made by the British government, that is the Regulating Act. I think it is in 1773. Let's see, it is in 1773. So Regulating Act was made by British government to regulate East India Company, and it came in 1773. Also it can be regulated only after each 20 years. That is this Regulating Act will be again scheduled, or means launched after 20 years with modification. So but at this time, this British wanted to conquer Indian government. So this regulating act, also called Charter Act or East India, this Regulating Act also called Charter Act or East India Company Act. Now let's share the detail of Regulating Act 1773. First step of centralization. This is I will say the first step of centralization of governments of India. Now why it is called first step towards the centralization of East India Company is that at that time India was controlled from three centers, one from Kolkata, one from Madras, and one from Bengal. All these three locations were independent of each other and works independently and have their separate zones. So all those governors sitting there controlling there was of East India Company. So each governor has their own executive, and each governor has their own executive and legislative power. Here executive means the power to use or apply law. Power to use or apply law. And legislative means power to make laws. Example, parliament. Now by regulating legislative power, Governor Madas started going to us. Here the governor of Bengal is given more power, legislative power, by Regulating Act 1773. This only the legislative part, not the executive part. Only the legislative part has started shifting towards the governor of Bengal. So this was called the first step of centralization of governance in India. So after this Regulating Act 1773, this governor of Bengal is now called Governor General of Bengal, and he was at that time Warren Hastings, and remains Governor General of Bengal from 1774 to 1785, and he was the first Governor General of Bengal. Now to assist this Governor General of Bengal, Warren Hastings, four-member committee formed. This four-member committee called Governor General in Council or Calcutta Council, Governor General in Council or Calcutta Council or Council of Four. But this four-member committee is only for namesake called the Committee to Support, but all of them were together taking the decisions. So by Regulating Act 1773, Supreme Court is also established in Calcutta. So this is 4-judge bench. Sir Elijah Impey, first Chief Justice of India. Cases like revenue, civil, etc. Also that now to stop the corruption in the East India Company, the Britishers has made rules like the employees cannot do trade, employees cannot take bribe, employees cannot take gift, etc. that is every penny is that is every penny that is transferred in East India Company will be accountable, and for this court of director is set up. This court of director will report every penny to Britishers. So court of directors is very important. So Britishers introduced checks and balances. So the khata or checks or balances we use today were introduced by Britishers only. Now let's see some of the disadvantages of Regulating Act 1773. First disadvantage is the lack of clarity. That is, there was no separation of power. That is, there were three bodies: Governor General in Council, and the Supreme Court, and there is no separate power separation between them. So the laws were ambiguous. Also, the court of directors were not reporting to the Britishers. Here the term executive is responsible to legislative. I will say you that executive is responsible to legislative means that the action taken by executive must be responsible to legislative. Like if a bureaucrat is taking some action, then he must be responsible to legislature. That is, he must follow all the rules or law that is made by legislature. It means that executive is inferior and legislature is superior. That is, executive is working under the legislature. Let's say a state, like say India, for sake of convenience, let's say a state or India, it will be divided into three factors: executive, legislature, and judiciary. Now executive, who is executive? Executive is those who implement laws. Example, bureaucrats, prime minister, ministers, etc. And legislature, making law, like parliament, Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad, etc. And judiciary, who is interpret law. Example, lower court, high court, Supreme Court. Now let's see the examples: executive, prime minister, president, vice president, council of minister, legislative, member of parliament, Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha. Now let's see example of our prime minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi is the prime minister of India, and he is also MP, member of parliament from Varanasi Lok Sabha seat. So primarily Narendra Modi is the member of parliament from Varanasi, and in the secondary position he is the prime minister, because he will be prime minister only till the majority is there. So also the president, vice president cannot remove Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, but Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha can remove the president, vice president, council of ministers. So here executives are responsible to legislative. That is legislative supremacy in India, that is parliamentary democracy. So executive is responsible to the legislature. Now the Governor General of Council of 1773 was executive council and also legislative council, primary, secondary. But in 1773 there was executive supremacy, but now it is legislative supremacy. So we moved from executive supremacy to legislative supremacy. Executive is responsible to legislative. So after the failure of Regulating Act 1773, two more act came, that is Amending Act 1781 and Pitt's India Act 1784. These two tried to resolve the disadvantage or the drawback of Regulating Act 1773. So Amending Act 1781, also called Act of Settlement, and Pitt's India Act 1784, these acts modified in existing Charter Act. Next regulating. Now the next Regulating Act can only be brought after 20 years, that it only can be brought in 1793. So these two are modification. Amending Act 1781 and Pitt's India Act 1784 are the modification to Regulating Act 1773. Now, to why purpose of passing the Amending Act 1781? To resolve lack of clarity, separates power between Governor General in Council, Supreme Court, etc. Separation of power, 17 executive, legislative and judiciary is separated. Now for British government, the Regulating Act 1773 was causing two problems. Government was not structured. This was resolved using Amending Act 1781 to take control on East India Company, resolved by Pitt India Act 1784. Pitt was the Prime Minister of Britain at that time. So here The Pitt India Act 1784 primarily aim was to take control of East India Company. In Pitt's India Act 1784, first time Britishers told that I am controller of East India Company and East India Company is subordinate. Now British government gained direct control over Indian administration. This act distinguishes political and commercial activities of East India. This act distinguishes the political and commercial activities of East India Company. Use the term British possession in India. All property of East India Company use the term British possession in India, that is all property of East India Company in India, that is BC, British Government Company, East India Company. Since Pitt's India Company divided this into political and commercial activities. So British Government Company, East India Company, for British Government Board of Control is set up, for company Court of Directors is set up. Now British Government will take control of military, administrative and political decision, and East India Company will take decision on commercial activities. But not so after the Pitt's India Act 1784, British starts controlling the East India Company. Now some of the drawbacks of Pitt's India Act 1784. Here also the laws made was not clear. There is no separation of work between Board of Control and Court of Director. But this act was very significant. So so this was the Regulating Act 1773. After that, Amending Act 1781, and then Pitt's India Act 1784 came. Now in 1793, Charter Act, that is Regulating Act 1793, which is called Charter Act 1793, is brought up. Here also the monopoly continued of East India Company for trade purpose only, because all the military or military administrative and all military administrative and political decision had gone to British government. Only the commercial power was with East India Company. So this Charter Act 1793 easily passed in British Parliament. By this, centralization increases and very slowly East India power. Centralization increases means the power of governor of Madras and Bombay starts shifting towards the governor of this Calcutta. So major step taken. East India Company got the power of privilege or country trade. That is, company can open its franchisee different branches of company. Similarly, East India Company can give franchisee India Chinese. So before 1790, there was also the issue of governor of Madras and Mumbai was not following orders of governor of Bengal. Then this is resolved by 1793 Act. It says, when the Governor General of Bengal is present physically in Madras and Mumbai, who would supersede control the authority over governor. It is a step towards centralization. It established that acquisition of sovereignty by the subject of crown is on the behalf of crown and not in own right. That is, company not taking our decision. It looks like they are taking their own decision, but the decision was actually taken by British government. Now to further suppress East India Company. Now the British government tried to further suppress this East India Company. So they will say that. So they made rule that company will have to pay salary to a staff and board of control members, and also this East India Company had to return 5 lakh per year to the British government, which they had taken. But control of revenue was still in hand of East India Company till continued till 1830. Now this Regulating Act again came in 1830. Between some major steps happened. Napoleon Bonaparte, France becomes challenged to England. Napoleon decreased the strength of British in Europe. After a war, Napoleon released 2 sanctions called Decree, Berlin Decree, Milan Decree. Starts of continental system, trading with England in Europe, then pay more taxes. So Napoleon's continental system created a challenge for England. England was doing trade in India, given monopoly license to only one company, that is East India Company. So getting tax from only one company. If given more company to trade, then more tax collection. So So Act of 1830 allowed other British merchants along with East India Company to trade in India under a strict license system under Charter Act 1830. So this was not complete of monopoly of East India Company, as it has having almost control on trade with China and trade with tea and trade on tea. So this act asserted the crown's sovereignty over British possession in India, means increases the control of crown. It also granted permission to the Christian missionaries to come to India and engage in spreading religion to make colony in India legal, political, cultural, etc. occupation. So this monopoly of East India Company, that is to trade with China and having complete trade control of tea with themselves. Now coming to Act of 1833. So provincial legislative means the Vidhan Sabha. Provincial Legislative Council of Madras and Bombay is abolished, and all the control goes to Governor General of Calcutta. Executive power was still there. So now Governor General of India was William Bentinck. This is maximum or complete centralization of governance. That is maximum or complete centralization of governance was in 1833. This is called colonization or control. Decentralization, many sections had control in their own region, no single point. Decentralization means many sections had control in their own region, no single point of control, and centralization is the single point of control. So centralization of governance means increasing control. So first step which was taken of centralization was in 1773, and the maximum centralization occurs on 1833 with the abolition of Madras and Bombay legislature. It is important to notice that it is the abolition of only legislature part, provincial legislature part, not of executive part. Now, Britishers told traders to do business in India, but at that time in India there were different laws at different locations. That is, codification was absent in India. That is, law commission was made so that entire land has one law, so that the traders can do business there. Now codification means making uniform laws. Indian Penal Code, Civil Procedure Code. Ended slavery, ended East India Company commercial activities and making it into the British Crown trustee in administrative. It lifted all restrictions on European immigration. Act of St. Helena Act. This is called St. Helena Act because St. Helena was an island which was between Europe and India, and the traders coming from Europe to India resides here for some time. This island, St. Helena Island, was in control. Firstly, it was in control of Dutch, but then it was in control of East India Company, but later it comes under the British Crown. So this Act of 1833, also called St. Helena Act. Now island of St. Helena was transferred from East India Company to British Crown. So this Act of St. Helena. Now this is the real end of monopoly of East India Company. Now this is Haileybury College. Now the British government was trying to get control of the East India Company, but East India Company was not coming in control of British Crown because the bureaucrats the East India Company has set up was completely under the control of this East India Company, because this Haileybury College, it is the East India Company Officers College, means all the first of all, let's say civil services. It is of lower and higher rank. So lower rank coming to color, here Indians can apply, and higher coordinated services, no open examination for this, for the selection of this higher bureaucrat position. The Haileybury patronage system was used, that is, take admission in Haileybury College if passed, then selected in higher civil services. But to take admission in this college, a sponsorship from East India Company is required. Now if only East India Company wants, then only you can take admission in this Haileybury College, and then only can become higher civil servant. So all the higher civil servant was very faithful to East India Company, because from the sponsorship of East India Company only they became the higher rank civil servant. So these are loyal to East India Company. Now from 1773 British wanted control. Now Britishers wanted to remove this control of East India Company on the bureaucrat. So the Act of 1833 only attempted to introduce a system of open competition for selection in civil services on merit based, but this was not implemented till 1853 because of the influence of the members of the East India Company. So this was implemented in Act of 1853. Hailey-Bury patronage system was abolished. The Macaulay Committee of 1854 introduced the Indian Civil Services and merit-based civil services in India. Now coming to Act of 1853, British Parliament indefinitely increases charter. Previously it was 20 years. Now it indefinitely increases charter. Indefinitely increasing charter means it can abolish or redefine it any time. No, not compulsorily only 20 years. That is company rule in any time. This act separated the legislative function of the Governor General in Council from the executive function, like the mini parliament. Was last charter act. Act of 1853 was the last charter act. So first regulating act came in 1773, and the last regulating act came in 1853. And this lasted till 1857, and East India Company abolished in 1857. So this was the first part of the historical underpinning part of polity, and I will discuss the second part of historical underpinning maybe tomorrow. Let's see.